Hey, I want to tell you about Cattle and Fire.
Never mind.
These guys make bone broth. They got into it because one of the founders' brothers had a sports injury, and he said, you know what? I think I can help you recover faster. And they made some slow-cooked bone broth, and sure enough, it helped with that injury recovery. And that was an ankle injury, I believe, ankle or heel. It was somewhere around the foot. Can't remember at this point, and that's on me. But hey, what I wanted, why I tell you that is because it can help you with injury recovery. It can help you with your workout recovery, and it's fall. It can help you with getting over the fact that it is crisp and cold outside. You can sip on some bone broth. You can eat some soup. If you're on a keto or paleo diet plan, if you're doing some intermittent fasting, the bone broth won't mess with your plan there. And the good people at Kettle and Fire want to give you 10% off your order. If you go to kettleandfire.com, use code BetterHumanhood at checkout. They'll give you 10%. You can hear how enthusiastic even Marlena is about the bone broth. I know.
Loves that stuff, yeah.
I know you do love the soup. I made some soup with the chicken broth. Yeah, It's good stuff. And so again, that's Kettle and Fire, KETTLEANDFIRE.com. Use code BetterHumanhood at checkout for 10% off. Kelvin, how are you?
Well, I'm fine. What you scared the heck out of me with that. I'm sorry. Startled is a better word. I didn't quite expect that. Exuberant entry of you. Life is good. My birthday was yesterday. I was alive to celebrate it. I'm alive today to talk about it. And hey, I was going to say it don't get much better than that, but I mean, that's a really good foundational start to a good
life. It really is.
Being alive. And somebody told me recently that statistics have shown that people who have more birthdays live longer. So
it's only if they have their own birthdays, though, right?
That's their own birthdays, yeah. So I just hit my 66th one. And since I'm reading a book that talks about my plan to 156, I'm about, I don't know, 40% in. So I suck at math, by the way. So, I'm planning some good things. Life is good here. And I'm doing all right.
So, yeah, I know we're time traveling a little bit. By the time this comes out, your birthday will have been like a week and a half ago, and last week we will have talked about you having just had a birthday, and I think the week before that we probably said, hey, you get a birthday coming up this week, happy birthday. But as far as your plan to 156 goes, I just got an email newsletter from Big Think. It said people who work with telomeres have figured out they can extend life by 12% right now. So
with telomeres?
Yeah, telomeres. These are the things in your body that they get shorter as you age. So like when they're gone and then you're gone, but they can make them longer.
We're going to have to spell that and let me look it up.
Yeah. Telomere, telomere.
Okay.
But I just got that email newsletter this week and read it this morning. But like Aubrey de Grey has been working with these things with his Center for Life Extension. And I shouldn't call it the Center for Life Extension because that sounds like a real place. And I don't know if it's his organization, but Aubrey de Grey was the first one I heard talk about telomeres and life extension. And I was talking to somebody at Lodge last night, and he's pushing 80, and he's got a pacemaker, and he's got one lung, and he's got some messed up knees. But we were talking about how he said he heard that 2030 you were going to have the option to live forever. So I'm not sure it's going to be here by 2030, but by 2030 we'll probably be able to extend people by a decade at a time, and every decade have something, have significantly advanced in the science. So 2030, if you want, we can get you to 2040, and then at 2040 we'll be able to get you to 2060, and pretty soon, people will die of like war and accidents. They're not going to die of stuff like cancer and like the stuff that kills us now.
It's going to be an interesting thing, because that means more people will be on the planet longer, and we'll all be standing up next to each other in our cylindrical houses that go straight up, because there's way a lot of people going to be here.
Yeah, and people of reproductive age are not going to stop reproducing.
People of what?
People of reproductive age are not going to stop reproducing.
Well, I know some people who are
because it's too much because it's too much fun.
I was going to say, I know some people who are not of reproductive age that keep practicing just in case it comes back.
Right? Exactly.
Is that going to come back into style? I don't know. Yeah. But anyway, this is not an R-rated show. We're keeping it good. Yeah. Anyway, how are you? However,
I'm doing well. We are in full on teething round 2 mode around here. She got her first bunch of teeth about 4 months ago, and now she's got another bunch of teeth coming in all at once, I think.
I see. Somewhere
in her mouth, and she's generally unhappy. She can't eat a whole meal all at one time, and having trouble sleeping, and she doesn't get when we're trying to shove some Motrin down her throat that we're just trying to make her feel better.
So you've talked a lot over the past month since you've had the little one, about stages of development and such, and you've put an interesting slant on it. So when are you going to write your baby development according to Josh book?
I think that's probably something that nobody wants, but well, okay,
you got some insights.
It's interesting to watch, but if there's ever a second or third, then maybe, because we operate largely on pattern recognition. As human beings, that's why we know that a person we've never met is a person. So if the second one's entirely different than the first one, I don't have any patterns to write a book by.
I see. So how, just out of curiosity, how how far are you going to extend out this research with your pattern models?
Are you asking how many kids we're going to have?
Sounds like it, yeah.
Probably fewer than you did.
Oh, well, okay.
If there's,
you won't have as many patterns to study.
Yeah, well, if they're spaced a couple of years apart, then we probably we probably can't have more than 4.
Well, okay.
I would.
4 is a good number, because that's a long ways. That's a long time to wait to write the book, though.
Yeah. Although there were 3 of us. My wife was one of 4, but by the time she was cognizant of her family, her oldest brother was basically out of the house and gone. So she grew up more like 3 of them as well. but I always, my sister has one child, and that child is going to be an only child, unless they mess up somewhere. But I've always maintained that you got to have at least two, because otherwise you always know who did it. You need a little.
And you need to be able to use your mind and guess.
Yeah, you need a little mystery in your life.
Got it. Okay. Well, I will say, without fear of contradiction, excuse me, that's the first time I've ever heard that as a reason for having another child. All right.
You must know a bunch of uninteresting people.
Apparently so. Apparently so.
You got to have puzzles in your life. How else are you going to stay spry as an old man?
Good enough. Well, thanks for bringing that up. Luckily, or however you want to look at it, I'm past that time frame, and for several reasons there, I should not have to worry about that again in my life. I'm just going to have to guess who did it from somebody else's house.
That's right.
And on that note, we should probably play some music.
Josh and Kelvin World Domination Podcast, where we talk about better humanhood and teach you how to dominate your world. You ready? Here we go.
Oh, there you go. Life is a circus. Yeah, sometimes. Well, Mr. Shearer, what are we going to discuss today?
Oh, I thought we might just go back to our initial premise and just have a conversation worth eavesdropping on.
Oh?
What have you been getting up to these days? I've been listen to me go, hey, what are you up to? This is what I've been doing. No, what have you been up to? What have you been up to lately?
Oh no, I like that part really well. That gives me
here, let me ask you how you're doing, and then just talk about me.
I've made a living out of that. No,
like there's a whole segment of people off to the side over here going, yeah, Josh, do it. Yeah, Josh, do it. That way we can just talk about how privileged you are as a white guy.
Oh no!
Ask the black man how he's doing, then don't let him talk.
Well, I'm not even going to go into that conversation. But I do the same thing with other humans. As a matter of fact, I have a friend right now out in Washington who I don't know why we hit it off. And all the time I'm asking her questions about her day. And then suddenly 10 minutes later, I'm like, okay, well, let me shut up and let you answer the question I asked you 10 minutes ago, because I've just been talking about my stuff. Because it's like squirrel. Whenever a topic comes up, or I don't know, a breeze hits my ear and I think of something else, I talk off on it. And see, she's learned to laugh at that. She thinks it's cute.
And enough about me. What do you think about me?
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, I've started some ventures that have been, I don't want to say it's been stressing me, but it's been challenging let's just say it's been challenging my comfort zone.
Anything that any of our listeners could potentially either help out with or benefit from?
There's always the question. There's always the question, isn't it? No, not real. I mean, I started with a company about selling insurance, and the whole training process and some of the things that sales, quote unquote, sales people do, I haven't been comfortable with over my life. Normally I go meet somebody and we have a chat and then we develop a rapport and then I go talk to them. And this is a little different game. But just, acquiring information and stuff like that. And I won't even go into details there, but it's just been kind of stressful for me in places. So it's challenging my mind. It's making me, widen my comfort zone a little bit. And in some cases, just get over being uncomfortable with doing something.
Yeah,
I choose the word uncomfortable versus scared because I don't want my mind to think that other one.
Yeah.
It's uncomfortable to do something. And, and plus, I learn a certain way. I've always learned a certain way. I get stuff. And there's been challenges on how I'm receiving the education I need. So it stresses me out a little bit, but I'm working through that. It's a process.
Well, I mean, I hear where you're coming from on that. I am, I can sell something if A, I think you're interested, and B, I really like the product.
Right.
I have never been good at selling anything that I thought was garbage.
Right.
But the worst thing you can do to me as a customer or a potential customer is try to hard sell me.
Mm-hmm.
If I come to you with something that I want to buy, upsell me all you want. I'm good with that. Mm-hmm. But if I walk in, I almost didn't buy the car I own because there was an incentive for another model. Now, I own a Nissan Quest. And I really like the Quest. It's got a third row of seats that you can actually get an adult in, and you can still like put stuff in the back. But they were having they must have been doing an extra incentive that month on Pathfinders because the guy kept trying to put me in a Pathfinder, which doesn't have that. It had like a little pop-up third row of seats that, came from underneath.
Right.
But you lost the storage space if you did that, and you really couldn't get a full-grown human back there. And also, when I test drove it, the pedals were offset in such a way that they were uncomfortable for my legs.
Right.
So, like, it actually hurt my knee to drive this thing.
Oh.
And I really didn't want it. And he kept pushing it and pushing it and pushing it. I don't want it. And at one point I went in there and he was busy with another customer, which means that I could just go up to the front and say, I've been working with this guy and I want to try that thing. And they just tossed me the keys and they let us take it out for an hour. They didn't even check on us.
Really?
Yeah, we're just driving around.
How's that for Southern hospitality?
No, that was up north too. That was in Syracuse.
Oh, that was here. Oh,
yeah.
There you go. Who knew?
That was December. So like we could have been off the side of a road. Yeah, because the central New York streets in December. But yeah, no, we came back and we were like, yeah, we really like this. And it's come in handy, having that. We can get, me and my wife and my sister and her husband and both babies and
sometimes
strollers.
a visiting friend.
Yeah, like, it all fits.
Yeah. Well, so I got a definite thing about sales but I've been listening to Grant Cardone lately, I like Grant Cardone's books. I don't know if I'd like him as a person in person because he's very intense. I mean, when you want to talk about intensity, this guy is intense, but he makes good points, and the first book I listened to from him was called The 10X Rule. And he's really intense. I like a lot of his philosophies. Like he says, nothing happens to me. Everything happens because of me. So he relieves himself of the excuse of not being prepared. He said, because if I had prepared for that, that wouldn't have been a problem, And he like that. One of the examples he used was, they have a storm in his neighborhood and the power goes out and he doesn't have power, so he can't do his work. And it's like, oh man, most people go like, oh man, freaking storm just did this to me. And he's like, no, if I'd prepared for that, I wouldn't have had no problem. So it didn't happen to me. It happened because of me. So next time he didn't have that problem. And I've always, not always is a long time. Adopted a while ago that two things. Nothing's wrong in my life that's not my fault. I adopted I think you and I fought over that one time. Nothing's wrong in my life that's not my fault. Not from the standpoint of I did something wrong, but from the standpoint that if we never take responsibility for something, right? Then if we don't take responsibility for the situation, we don't take responsibility for the fix.
Right.
And one of my favorite lines in Illusions or the Messiah's Handbook is, if it's never your fault, then you'll never take responsibility for it. And if you never take responsibility for it, you will always be its victim. Which is one of the most powerful lines I have heard in my life. And it put me on a whole different path of thought process. So that's kind of where we went with that. I don't know if I answered the real question, like what's going on with me, but there's changes in my life and stuff I'm trying to do. And breaking out of old patterns is work. Breaking out of old patterns is work. So in order to be successful in the venture I'm in, I got to learn some new stuff. I got to learn some new things. I got to break out of a lot of old patterns. I've been comfortable. I've been retired for a while now. I've not been what one would call an aggressive person. I've been I've been doing things comfortably. You and I have a podcast. I've got a podcast. I do some writing here. I do some writing there. The most consistent thing I've ever done in my life is vitamin K, when I actually write one of those suckers every single day, 5 days a week, 52 weeks a year for the last 9 years. If I'd had that kind of consistency with almost anything else in my life, I'd be rich and famous. Now I'm okay and infamous. It's not the same. It's not the same. So, that kind of consistency is a habit worth developing. And sometimes when I'm going, well, I don't want to do that, I have to go back to remember, so where am I successful and what actually got me there? And do I want to follow the successful route, or do I want to not? Makes me think. I hate it when I have to think sometimes.
So what are some of your strategies for getting consistent on things that you're not crazy about doing the work on?
I don't know. Can we save that for another podcast? You put me on the spot here. Actually, sometimes consistency just develops with consistent action, whether you like it or not. Calling people who don't know I'm calling, because sometimes I have to overcome my own rules, right? Generally speaking, I'm sitting in my house and the doorbell rings and there's somebody at my house that I did not invite to ring my doorbell, and they're trying to sell me something, and I'm like, hey, hi, how you doing? And so I kind of start off with an attitude, and if they're really good, I'll go, oh, well, you're not a bad guy to listen to. I'll have have a conversation with you. But me doing that is probably, I'm worried about meeting me at their door. Right.
Gotcha.
But the first thing I really need to do is learn how to, and that's what I'm in the process of, is learn how to handle those situations so that I'm not a major intrusion when I talk to somebody who's not expecting me. And depending on who you talk to, one of the best ways to do that is not to assume I'm going to be an intrusion on somebody I'm talking to, because not everybody feels about it like I feel about it. And I am very much governed by the rules I have for me on what I do with other people.
And it seems like is this a fairly recent rule for you? Because I seem to remember at least stories when I was growing up, in the 80s, about people who made their living selling stuff door to door. Like it was not uncommon for people to just ring your doorbell like several times a day. Right. And it was not uncommon to, like, I remember, telemarketers calling a dinner before everybody had cell phones with caller ID and could send people straight to voicemail. Like it wasn't that long ago when people would just, like, this is just a routine part of your day. Hey, I'm sorry, I know you weren't expecting my call. I've got this great product that I think might benefit you. Do you have 5 minutes to talk about it?
Mm-hmm.
And now we're like, no, I'm way too busy. You should die.
Oh yeah. Well, and people still do make their living like that. But we're in a different age. We're in a different age right now. So everything we think we want has been fed to us by our own choices. I click here, I want this. I click here, I want this. Oh, look, I got 47 emails in my mailbox today on this thing that I said I was interested in. I already got one now. Can't get off this freaking mailing list, and I already got it. That kind of thing. So and actually a while back when I started in multi-level marketing, I was an Amway distributor first, and I got nothing bad to say about Amway, the system. Some of the people, and some of the people I have at work weren't great either, but pretty much I got dedicated to the product that I was selling at the time. So I really wasn't, and I was gonna use that product, and I really wasn't interested in watching commercials about other products because my commitment was to use the stuff I was selling. Right. So it was kind of funny. I got enrolled in some, these marketing companies were like, okay, we've got a commercial we're going to be showing you at such and such. Oh, no, I'm sorry. They call and they say, hey, we're airing a new comedy, and we'd like for you to watch this comedy, if you're willing, for 30 minutes and tell us what you think about it. And I was like, sure, I'll do that for you. So at the appointed time, I would watch this show. And then when the commercials came on, I'd go get coffee. I'd go to the bathroom. I'd do whatever. I hear it back. I come back and I'm going to watch the show. All right, good. Show's funny, whatever. And I go and another commercial comes on and I go and I watch, do something else, or for that 30 seconds or a minute and a half where the commercial's on, and I come back and then I watch the show. And then the people called me later and they said, well, what did you think of the show? And I said, I thought the show was great. It was really, really funny and blah, 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 blah. And then they started asking me all these questions about the commercials in the show. Right. And I'm like, I don't know. I don't watch commercials. I'm like, huh? I don't watch commercials. So as it turns out, the only reason I knew anything about the commercials anyway was because I was curious on what was on that channel when I wasn't watching it. And all it was running was these commercials. For the time, it was a Toyota thing, running and running and running and running. And so every time I went there, these commercials were on. So the only reason I knew about them is because I tuned into the channel before that. And that's when I realized what kind of focus I had. I really wasn't looking at the other stuff because I had stuff that I was involved in. I wasn't interested in the other, and I believe in the stuff I was involved in. I wasn't interested in the other stuff. This is what I was doing. So I was focused on this. So I think that probably started my path of, I don't want to hear what you got to say because I'm using this, which, be honest with you, this is the first time I've actually even considered that as an impetus for anything. in the last 30 years, because it's been a long time that I've had this we'll call it focus.
That's it. That's interesting. I'm the opposite of brand loyal. I will try all kinds of different stuff. I'm open to new stuff, but if you make a misstep in my relationship with a product, forget you, like, forever.
Oh man, look,
I'm so I don't hold grudges against people, but
right.
companies,
yeah,
holy cow. I
am really a loyal customer. Once you got me and I'm your customer, I am loyal until you Time Warner did that to me. I'll tell you about that later.
Well, yeah, that's an entire different segment of business, because that's a government supported monopoly, right? So in a lot of places, your cable provider is the only one who can give you TV and internet. In my market, the cable provider isn't the only one that can give you TV, but until very recently, they were the only one who can give you internet. Like, you could get a satellite dish, but the accompanying internet package was sold by the cable company.
Right.
Now my cell phone company, T-Mobile, is testing home internet in rural markets where they can't really get, where they have to get satellite, where they can't get cable.
Right.
So most of those customers have DSL, because it still runs on buried wires, which means that they're paying for another home phone line on top of their internet access. So T-Mobile's testing home internet there, and once they're satisfied with that, I'm hoping they roll it out here so that we can. I won't even tell you who our provider is, because I've been unhappy with them from like day 3, and we've been stuck with them for 5 years so far. But because they're the only game in town, and the government allows that. So
yeah, that wasn't supposed to be legal, was it?
Right.
They've shut people down for that. For
Empire Brewing. Did you see they're gone?
No.
Yeah. So what happened, and I'll just give you a brief overview of the news stories. So they got evicted from the Armory Square store, and the owner of Empire told the paper that the landlord tripled the rent. And he said they weren't willing to pay it because the sprinkler system, they couldn't get a certificate of occupancy because the landlord wouldn't get the sprinkler system up to code. The landlord says, no, it's absolutely not true. We did not triple the rent. They haven't, they paid partial a couple of months, and then they haven't paid in a couple of months. And the paper called City Hall, and they said, no, the sprinkler system in there is fine. There was a night that we took some out of town friends there, and they were a fairly consistent stop for us. But some friends came to visit, and we went there, and it was embarrassing. Like it was like, why would you, like, the service was so bad that night. It was, why would you bring me embarrassing? The guy brought out a shared appetizer, didn't bring silverware, didn't come check on us. Somebody was clearly trying to decide what beer she wanted, and instead of asking her what she liked and that kind of stuff, he just walked away and never came back to figure out what she wanted. Like, next time, by the time he came back to take our food order, she was just like, I'll stick with water. We wrote them and we said, hey, it was really bad. And they said, yeah, you know what? a couple of servers had a good friend who died that night. We're really sorry that we should not have let them work. We knew this was going to be an issue. Sent out a gift card. Went to use that gift card, found out there was nothing on it. They hadn't activated
No,
it.
are you serious?
And so we're just like, we're done. We're done.
Oh, wow.
And so, like, we never went back. And so, like, I don't like watching businesses fail, especially like local businesses that are trying something cool. But every now and then your heart does a little happy dance.
Because they used to be good.
When somebody's caught in a lie.
Yeah.
And you know what? Maybe we caught them on just 2 bad nights, and 2 bad nights out of 365 is less than 1%. But our bad luck, 1%. I guess.
Wow. Yeah, I didn't know that. So, well, I guess I won't be going there, huh?
Well, they're not open anymore, so
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. So cool. Well, there you go. So that's kind of the stuff I've been dealing with. So I'm dealing with me. I'm finally. You don't get to be this age, generally speaking, just being like totally stupid.
Right.
So it's not that I am, but I do have some tendencies that could benefit by modifying them so I can do some other things. So it's in some places it's a struggle, and sometimes I got to tell you I'm known for being able to get along with just about anybody, but there's sometimes people who just they just I'm the guy, I'm the Prince of Positive, and man, some people they just tighten me up, and I just can't get past the thing. And I have found, well, I won't talk about that, but anyway, I'm a really, really nice man. So you just got to talk to me like a human being, and we're good, and answer my questions, of course. You can't assume I read minds and stuff like that.
Right. Yeah. I even made them take Mind Reader out of my last job description.
Is that right?
Yeah.
It probably hurt their feelings, didn't it?
Yeah, it did. But I told them I knew it was going to be an issue. So.
Okay.
If I read a mind correctly, it's a bonus.
Yeah. Exactly.
But if I don't, then nobody gets to complain because.
There you go. I like responsible. That. I'm gonna use that like soon. Very soon. I'm gonna use.
Here's the job description. Show me where it says Mind Reader.
Yeah, that's it. Excellent. I got to write that down. So anyway, but yet there are some jobs when you're sort of kind of paid to be a mind reader, or at least people think you are. But that's a whole other thing. So that's what I'm doing. Otherwise, as my son, sometimes we're too ambitious, right? My son helped point that out to me yesterday. I don't know where this young man came up with his wisdom. I'm not taking credit for it, and he didn't used to have it. But I'm pointed in a lot of different directions, and some of those directions are the same kind of thing. But it's hard to devote, 80% of your energy to something when you're splitting it with 14 other things. Then the problem is,
it's true.
What is it that I want to give up? And the fact of the matter is nothing. I don't want to give up anything. Well, as math goes,
well,
there are some problems with that.
I think it's possible to divide your time into a lot of things. You have to understand. You have to put boundaries around those things, and some things you just have to not let bleed into others. And once you let X time bleed into Y time, then Y isn't getting done anymore because you let X take over.
Right.
Yeah. So, one thing I do is if I want to start a new habit, I tie it to an old habit that I like, or I tie it to something else I want, especially if it's a new habit that I think is going to be hard. So there was a month over the summer where I said, okay, I need to start drinking less coffee. So what I did was I said, okay, I'm going to replace 1 cup of coffee with a cup of tea. So I made it the easiest thing for me to do was just make the first cup of coffee a day tea. So if I wanted a cup of coffee, I had to have a cup of tea first. And that worked. And it worked pretty quickly. I even, for days when I was working, working the night job and I was up early in the morning anyway, I wouldn't have my coffee until I started work. I made a big old cup of tea. I drank that cup of tea all day until it was time to take my afternoon nap. And after I woke up from that and was going to go to work, I could have some coffee.
Cool.
So I used it as a replacement for something. I chose the habit that was undesirable in my heart. My brain said, okay, tea's better for you. You need to drink more tea. But I'm a coffee drinker. So in order to drink more tea, I said, okay, well, you can have coffee when you finish your tea. It's like, how can you have your pudding if you don't eat your meat?
Oh, who was that?
Pink Floyd.
Yes, there you go. Yep. I heard about that. We had a guy give a speech on that Toastmasters. It was friggin' awesome. I'm like, what's that have to do with anything? And then, he had to go explain it. So.
Yeah.
So it's...
But I mean, that's just habits. I guess that's different from time management, as it were.
Yeah. Which I need to work on some habits too. I've got 3 or 4 books on changing habits. Develop a habit of reading the books, and using what they say. So, but I mean, I'm at a stage in life right now where essentially I'm happy with what I am and who I am and stuff. There's just a couple of areas I think could be fine tuned. And since in my head, I'm still young enough to do that stuff because I'm, there ain't nobody in my world who would talk to me and go, "You're how old?" No, 66 is really youthful. I think 66 is a new 35, but that's just me. So, and that's kind of how that goes. Look at that smile. Look at that smile. That is one of the prettiest smiles I've ever seen.
Now, for the record, I just put Marlena on my lap.
Yes,
Kellen is not
That's not Josh's smile. Hey, Marlena, how you doing? But anyway. So what else we got here? Because that's all good stuff. That's all life stuff that people are dealing with, probably all over the place. Because there's always new decisions. There's always new choices. There's always.
Are you taking any fiction into your life these days?
I haven't recently. What you got in mind?
Well, I'm reading. I've been reading. A few different authors, but I've read so much nonfiction this year that I just started to take novels out of the library. So I'm reading Kurt Vonnegut right now.
I'm sorry, you're reading who?
Kurt Vonnegut.
Okay.
And I've been reading Tim Dorsey, which was we had Mitch Mitchell on the podcast a while ago.
Yep.
He made me aware of Tim Dorsey's novels, and I enjoy those. But so I'm rereading Kurt Vonnegut's Cat's Cradle right now. And I forgot that it's at its core is a
Hello.
is a religion called Bokononism, and it's really just about being nice to people, and not taking life too seriously.
Okay.
Yeah.
How's that working out in the book?
So it's good. It's a good reminder.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there, things get more intricate, but that's the overall gist of it. Be nice to people.
Well,
and
last
don't take life too
year,
seriously.
I started reading a book accidentally.
Oh, right. It showed up in your Audible, right?
Yeah. And I'm trying to think, who was that? James Clear? No. Anyway, it turned out to be. I thought it was.
Is it James Patterson?
Yes, James Patterson. When I started, I thought it was because I was listening to NPR on the radio, and I thought it was one of those shows where they were reading stories on NPR. So I'm like, oh, I was going to turn off to a music and say, oh, sounds really good. Well, let me just go ahead and listen to this. And then I got home, and I turned it off, and I went in the house, and I turned on my, went to get my iPad or something and hit something. And I started listening for music, but this story started back. I'm like, how in the world did that story get from NPR on my phone right now? And what I discovered was that somewhere along the line, I had won a free book. And I downloaded this book by James Patterson and started listening to it. It was so engaging. I mean, I decided like that night I was not going to do anything else, but I listened to that book and just the writing and the action and the way he did things. Now, I've bought 2 other books by him, which you told me you don't do that. You get one from and then go to somebody else. But I bought 2 other books from him, but I haven't cranked them open yet. So it's probably time to do that.
Yeah.
Just to clear the head out of the cobwebs of business stuff sometimes.
Yeah. Fiction's a good escape, especially if it's somebody who's writing well. Now, I had an interesting encounter with Kurt Vonnegut a number of years ago.
How so?
He had a granddaughter or somebody going to Smith College. And I was a regular performer at an open mic in the town where Smith College is, Northampton, Massachusetts. And the venue is long gone. They closed 2002 or so. It was called Fire and Water, and it was in the basement of a bank building. And it was obviously a basement. So the way this place was set up was you'd go in through the door, and you were basically in the back of the place. And then you duck down and go down a step into the rest of the basement, and the performers were all the way at the other end.
Right.
So everybody was facing what is essentially the back wall instead of the front door.
Right.
And the MC called up Special K and the Kids, and a bunch of 17-year-olds got up. One was it was an acoustic open mic. You couldn't have a microphone.
Right.
One of the kids got on piano, another kid had a guitar, another kid had some bongos, and they were just kind of jamming. And in the door, while they were jamming, Kurt Vonnegut walks in the door, walks right up to the front, raps the beginning of Chaucer's Canterbury Tales in Middle English, and walks out the back door.
Wow.
And the internet existed, but wasn't really like super out there. So few people knew who he was. He'd made an appearance in Back to School, the Rodney Dangerfield movie.
Right.
So like he wasn't entirely unknown.
I wish we could have
what he
video.
looks
I
like.
wish we could have video right now. So we could show how you're being totally abused by the baby.
Yeah. Yeah, wait till she actually vomits on my head.
Oh, yeah, that'd be so exciting for you, I'm sure.
And then, but yeah, so not many people knew what he looked like. So there were a few of us who were like, was that? Yeah, it was. Like, okay. Yeah, so to narrate what happened for people was I put the baby up on my shoulders, and she hasn't quite gotten what's going on yet when I do that. So she immediately, with her legs, will grip the first thing that she thinks she has to hold on to, which always winds up being the top of my head, because the top of my head comes before my shoulders. So really what happens when I put her up there is her butt goes halfway down my head, and she just wraps her feet around my bald head and half covers my eyes, and then eventually I can wiggle her all the way down to my shoulders.
I just took a screenshot in case you want to include that in the show
Okay,
notes.
sure. But yeah. So she kind of monkey grips her way all the way down onto my shoulders, and she is infatuated with my bald head, which she is now drumming on. Yeah.
Oh, there you go. Well, I bet they can't get that kind of image from anybody else's pocket. They need to just keep coming back here so we can let them
That's
know
right.
how your tiny baby is abusing you during our podcast.
That's right. We're gonna have to start.
Featuring
at some point, we're gonna have to start planning video of these things.
Drummer. She's drumming now. Look at that.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, there you go.
Great.
So maybe she might be trying to tell us that we've talked long enough and she wants to go have some fun.
Yeah. This might be a good place to call it. So thanks for being here, and thanks everybody for thinking we're interesting enough to keep downloading these episodes. Tell your friends, rate, review, share. We did talk about a lot of stuff, so there will be good show notes over at jkwdpodcast.com. We will see you next time.
Bye-bye.
Hey, thanks for listening. Show notes and more at jkwdpodcast.com. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share with your friends, and we will see you next week. Bye! A Better Humanhood production.